Welcome to the Your Golf Performance Podcast, where we dive into the world of golf improvement and performance. I'm your host, Brent Dale, here to bring you insights from the game's top coaches, players, and experts. Whether you're a club golfer, elite player, or a seasoned professional, our goal is to help you elevate your game. Tune in each week for in-depth interviews, expert tips, and little gold nuggets that help us identify what makes the best in golf rise to the top. Let's get started and take your golf performance to the next level. Welcome back to the Your Golf Performance Podcast. We're joined with Stephen Deane. He's Dubai Golf's head international development coach. Mate, thanks for coming on.
Pleasure for having me. Thank you.
And shout out to Andrew Welsford for getting this hookup. He said that you're someone that I definitely need to get on and have a chat. Do you want to just start by just giving us a bit of a, intro into how you got into golf back in the early days?
Yeah, Brent, thank you. Yeah, so I'm originally from Northern Ireland. So I took golf up a little bit later in life, kind of when I was almost 17.
Yeah.
So, same as most guys back in Northern Ireland, played a lot of sports when I was younger, football, hockey. And then I had a little bit of a knee injury. So I couldn't play kind of hockey or football for, 3 or 4 months. And it was over the summer season. So my dad always used to play golf. So he said, right, Steve, come on, let's go and let's play a few holes. And that's how I started, really. And to be honest with you, I was hooked pretty much straight away from the first time we went onto the golf course. Northern Ireland as well, there's not a lot of kind of practice ranges, so you tend to learn actually on the golf course. So I just loved it out there, I just loved the environment, and I just wanted to actually see what can I do to improve. So that's really where the interest from the coaching came into it from a very early age.
Did you just find yourself hooked and wanting to play as much as you can at that young
Yeah,
age?
I did. I couldn't believe it, really. Obviously, all the other sports we would have done, football, hockey, you had your coach. You had a coach telling you what to do, how to do it. But all of a sudden, golf was, there's no one to teach me this or coach me this. I wasn't a member at a golf club. I didn't have any friends that played golf. So really, it was kind of up to me to learn about it, how to improve. So back then, social media wasn't really a thing, was it? So it was a lot of buying the golf magazines, going to the library, researching the books. I would look at a lot of there was a book. It was Americans' Top 100 Teachers. I don't know if you remember that one. They brought a new version out every year, but you had all the top American guys. Mike Adams, Todd Anderson, Mike Bender, Butch Harmon, David Ledbetter, and they all had a little segment in this book. So I would just read that for hours and kind of learn about maybe their coaching styles, different ways to do it. And I was pretty fortunate. I was brought up in the countryside on a farm back in Ireland, so I had lots of room to go outside and practice all these different things. And so I guess my initial interest to golf wasn't really from looking up to different players. I kind of was looking up to different coaches, really.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out, what do these guys teach, and then I would go and experiment myself, and then trying to improve my own game, obviously, as we went along.
And you did a PGA traineeship?
Yeah, I did. So again, very fortunate. Where I lived was about a 20-minute drive from Royal County Down Golf Club. Obviously, they had the Irish Open there last week, right? So one of the best golf courses in the world. So when I did first start to play, I then obviously drove down, had a chat with the guys that worked in the pro shop, and Kevin Whitson, the head pro, was there at the time. I was very new to golf, and I just asked if I could have a summer job. Now, there was no jobs at the time in the pro shop, but the kind of guys linked me up with the head greenkeeper, Alan Strachan. So I did a couple of, kind of seasons with him, I guess, in between my studies, the summers and Easter times. I would go down and help a little bit. And then, eventually I went to university in England. I did a golf management degree. And then that summer, the guys took me on in the shop. So a lot of American visitors coming through. And then Kevin said to me, Steve, listen, at this stage I'd improved my golf massively. And he said, listen, Steve, if you want to think about becoming an assistant professional after you graduate, he was going to be happy to take me on. I goes, absolutely. So I signed up to the PGA. And I was fortunate again because of a lot of the topics I had done within my degree. I was able to complete the PGA course within 2 years rather than 3.
Yeah. We're welcoming a new partner to the Your Golf Performance podcast. This will be a performance analytics partner, Circles, or Draw More Circles as you may know them, the ultimate tool for tracking your golf progress. Whether you're a junior golfer, college player or coach, the everyday club golfer, or a golf professional, Draw More Circles allows you to easily track and analyze your performance like never before. With their innovative performance analytics, you'll get insights into your game that go far beyond just the scorecard. From strokes gain metrics to detailed reports on every aspect of your play, you can pinpoint exactly where to focus your practice to improve faster. One of the best features that I've found with Circles is the course management tool, which will take your physical data to help you navigate around the course smarter. They're actually taking your stats that you've entered into the system and helping you strategically play a better game of golf. Plus, it's perfect for coaches who want to keep track of their players' development and offer data-driven advice. If you can't measure it, you're guessing. The best part is that as you are one of my listeners, you'll get exclusive access to their services through our partnership. These prices are too hot to mention, and I'll need you to email me. My email address is brentdalegolf@gmail.com, or feel free to message me on Instagram at brentdalegolf. We welcome Circles to the team. And obviously, you were mentored by Pete Cowen, or you with your coach.
Yeah,
How did
Pete,
that
Pete,
come about?
Pete Cowan's definitely my mentor. So it came about, obviously I was at Royal County Down as the assistant pro for 6 years, and then there was an opportunity to move to Emirates Golf Club. They were after a coach at the time, and I was very into my coaching. When I was at Royal County Down, Kevin, the head pro, did do a lot of coaching, but not a lot of junior coaching or ladies coaching. So I kind of took that under my wing when I was there and really got into it. I really loved passing the information which I had learned on to the junior players in particular, and they were after like a junior coach at Emirates Golf Club. So there was a chap there called Andrew Whitelaw, who was the director of golf at the time. I remember he just gave me a phone call, and he said, Steve, listen, if you want to come over, the job's yours. So I flew over. It was January 2008, so it's nearly 17 years ago now. Um, so a long time, but at that stage, Pete Cowan, I think he did have an academy at Emirates before that, and then the golf club kind of took it over when he was getting very busy with his own travels.
Yeah,
And the academy then was in association with Pete Cowan. So he would come in and out, all the time. We had the Dubai Desert Classic every year. So he'd be over for that for 2 or 3 weeks. And, it was great. You just have a sit down with him, watch him coach in the range, shadow him, pick his brains about things. He would hit a lot of balls himself. So you would go down and maybe spend a few hours with him. And the knowledge you gain from that was just incredible. And I still use a lot of it today. That's kind of been the main foundation to my coaching, really.
he came here in maybe 2008,
Okay.
PGA teaching and coaching summit in Australia, and I remember just watching him, thinking he's just no nonsense. Just seemed like very, confident in his coaching ability,
Yeah.
and extremely knowledgeable. And I guarantee any of the the high level kids that would have come under his, when he was coach. I think he was coaching. Was he coaching the national teams and that sort of stuff over in
Yeah,
England or
he did a lot. He actually did a lot with the Irish team.
Yeah,
So he knew McIlroy, Shane
that's
Lowry
right.
from a
Yeah,
very early age, and then he was very influential with the Belgium national team. So Thomas Pieters, Thomas Dietrich, and a few of the other guys. So yeah, he used to be heavily involved with the national team coaching.
What would you say your key takeaway would be that you've learnt from him?
Basically, just how he really deals with better players. I would say, like you say, he's very black and white. So he doesn't sugarcoat it. You
Yeah,
know, and he always says, he give if it's good, he gives you a 6 out of 10, right? So
yeah,
he's never given anybody a 10 out of 10 because he always says you can improve, you can always do it better. I think the biggest thing for me is that he tells the players how it is. And I think that's what they need a lot of the time, and he's not scared to maybe pull them to one side if he feels their attitude isn't very good.
yeah.
He said that, he said a few things in the media over the years. He's pulled Stenson in. He's also pulled Brooks Koepka in. And after those chats, they've all gone on to win major championships. So that's probably the biggest thing. But then obviously his knowledge and his technical stuff with the short game, the bunker shots, the full swing. He's got a pyramid of learning which he uses. So there's a structure to the coaching. So all those things have really helped.
I'm gonna. I remember him getting up and talking about something, and when you just said then about the structure and the pyramid,
Yeah,
it sort of brought it back in my mind. He was talking about something when he used to coach squads or whatever, and he'd give them a set of drills, and he's like, I could tell the next time I see them if they'd done it or not. And from memory, he spoke about like ankle over knee, knee over hip. Is that
yeah.
he was talking about the coil?
It's the spiral. Yeah, so it's kind of
Yes.
left ankle, right shin, right knee, right quad, and you just work your way up, right? So
Yeah,
he likes the spiral body action. So
that's it.
it's a centered coil, but it's working
Yeah.
in an upward direction.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I just remember hearing it going, it's so smart to teach someone, I guess, how to make the correct coil on that backswing. So
Yeah, so I think he was teaching the players how to hold the ground correctly
yeah,
before. Obviously, ground reaction force now
we're
is
out.
massive. Everybody's talking about trying to use the ground. So I think Pete was kind of ahead of his time, really.
Yeah,
He's been teaching that for years now.
yeah.
Hey guys, if you're struggling with your ball striking, I want you to head to golfperformancestore.com.au and look up this new product called the Pro Sender. It's a great key to educating your hands and wrists for a pro level swing. It's got a unique 3-in-1 design. The versatile tool helps you build better hand-eye coordination. It improves your ball striking, and you can nail those perfect swing positions that everyone's looking for. Get the Pro Sender today at golfperformancestore.com.au. Use the code YGP20 for a hefty 20% off at checkout.
Mate, what's a normal week look like for yourself when you're at home?
It's changed over the years, particularly the last couple of years. Before 2 years ago, I was head of academies for Dubai Golf. So I would manage, I think maybe 21, 22 pros I would manage at three different golf clubs. And then I would also do my own coaching around that. So pretty busy. The last 2 years, because I've kind of got a little bit more of a reputation of teaching some pros now, so that the guys like me to travel with them. I've been involved with the ASCs, the Asia Pacific Academies, which obviously
Yeah,
Andrew's involved with as well.
yeah,
So I've been traveling to host those the last few years, and then I'm kind of in a little bit of a trainer really for the pros within Dubai Golf.
yeah,
So I'll do some training seminars throughout the season. So it's definitely at the minute I'm definitely much more flexible. I'm not doing lesson after lesson. I tend to have maybe individuals that come to see me for 3 or 4 days. And I do individual lessons every week, but particularly just with my up and coming juniors, really.
yeah. And when you say you're traveling with a few pros, you've got a few under your wing?
Yeah, a few. I've been fortunate to kind of get in with a few guys from Malaysia. So a really good young player called Galvin Green,
Yep.
who's Gavin Green's brother. So I've been doing a lot of work with him the last few years, and he's done really well, particularly in the local circuit and the Toyota Tour. He's won 3 events the last season. Now he's on the Asian Development Tour, and he's kind of working his way up the order of merit. So his goal ultimately is obviously to get his full Asian Tour card and then progress probably onto DP Tour at some stage. So it's nice working with these young players. I enjoy it. I've got a few guys in America as well that play a little bit in the Canadian Tour over there. Again, they've recently been over to the DP World Qualifying School in England. And I've got a few Challenge Tour players, so not many. I've probably got 5 or 6 guys I'm doing some regular work with. I don't get to see them all the time, but it's nice nowadays. Obviously, we can do some video lessons, and
Yeah,
we keep
that
we
was
keep
going to
in
be my
touch as
next
much as
question.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah, you're obviously doing a fair bit through remote coaching, obviously.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice, and the guys. There's a lot of good tools out there, right? I've really enjoyed the Sports Box recently. So if you're getting that slow mo video from Face On, and you can load it through there, you can kind of see patterns, right? You can see movement patterns.
Yeah.
You can see kind of corridors where maybe if they're playing well, they're within this certain bracket. Obviously they have the kind of green, amber, and red system, which doesn't necessarily mean if it's red it's bad, but it's just good for me to know if they're moving well. These are their pelvis numbers, their torso numbers, their chest turn. This is how much they're lift. So I really enjoy that. I really enjoy using that the last couple of years.
How do you go? Sometimes you just want to grab someone and like put them into the position that they got to feel. How do you go explaining it? It made you become a better communicator, you reckon?
Yeah, I think again, with Pete, he has a lot of drills. Brady, he's got a lot of drills, right? So I think the drills have been massively important. Drills for different, you've got your body action drills, you've got your hand, arm, and club movement drills, your face stabilization drills. So there's always a drill. There's probably 30 or 40 really good drills. So you can, if the player's struggling in particular, and you can just get them to do one of the drills, very quickly they can get the feel for it, and it does get them back on track.
Yeah.
Your golf ball is the most technologically advanced, or it's not. Your golf ball is either the most consistent, or it's not. It's the most trusted, or it's not. The fact is, it's either Titleist, the best performing golf ball in the world, or it's not. Prove it for yourself. Titleist, the #1 ball in golf. What will you play?
Mate, for the coaches that are listening, the younger coaches coming through, what would you say are the most important qualities or skills that they would need to, end up being a coach like yourself?
Yeah, I think obviously early on, if you're teaching beginners, it's just really understanding that, you don't have to stress out too much about giving them, the best lesson ever and making them hit the ball better. I always feel, if someone's booked a lesson with you, they're just happy to make the lesson, right? They've probably had to leave work. They're just happy to get there on time. They're happy to complete the lesson. They're happy to have learned something during the lesson. So as a young coach, don't put yourself under lots of pressure to feel you have to improve that person's skill level within the session. Now, you're obviously going to try and do that, but if it doesn't happen, don't worry too much about it, because I feel, most people, it's an accomplishment at a beginner level just to make the class, get through the class, and then obviously they will pick it up as you go along. And then obviously with better players, it's trying to work more with them. Everybody's an individual, so it's trying to work more with their mindset, trying to understand, how they learn the best way. And then using your skills or drills or whatever you need to do just to try and help their performance. And it mightn't be technical. It could be a variety of other things,
Yeah, I completely agree. Look, having been around, I want to get into the AAC stuff and that, but is that it? AAC?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
AFC.
yeah. But just this is one of the questions that I ask in a lot of the podcasts is, you know, you've been around some high level golfers, and you would have seen over the last couple of decades plenty of good players. Have you seen any sort of common traits or similarities with the guys that are, you know, your Rory McIlroys that are out there top fiving, top tenning most weeks versus the ones that are, struggling to keep their card, or even, you know, 30th or 50th on a money list versus the guys that are right up the top?
Yeah, listen, you've got your standout guys at the top.
Yeah,
When you watch, when you watch Brooks or Rory hit the ball, it's phenomenal. Or even Stenson in his head, the way he could strike the golf ball was incredible. So there is those guys that do stand out, but like you say, underneath that, for me, I think the younger pro coming through, or even some of these young amateurs that we work with in the ASC, in their mind, I think they believe they're a long way off that standard,
Yeah.
and they're not though. They're
yeah,
not. That's the thing. That's the thing. You're not when you go out and watch these guys. They do make a lot of mistakes. They do hit a lot of poor shots. It's the players that can back themselves just to go out there and just go with it. Obviously you're going to make mistakes, but don't let it get to you too much, which is easier said than done, right? It's just trying to keep that going, keep the consistent, because they all can play good golf. And I try to say to them, listen, you've got the beginners in the world that are down here, and you've got the tour players that are up here. And when you ask them, where do you think you are, they say they're around here, these young pros, but that's no, you're not. That's like a 15 handicapper. You're actually right up here.
yeah.
So you're much closer to it than you think. So it's really just a shift in mindset, and then understanding that technically, if you can develop a consistent pattern of movement, you can do it under pressure. You can do it under pressure. You can go out there and perform.
I love that answer. It is amazing, like how close some of these,
Oh, incredible.
you got the top of the top, but then the guys that are 200 or 300 in the world, they're still phenomenal golfers.
Well, you
That,
see it in the practice rounds. You
yeah,
know what I mean? When you go to these tournaments, yeah, I'll see it. I'll be with a young guy coming through, and he's down here somewhere in the ranking, and he's maybe playing with a guy that's won a major, and you don't really see much difference between them in the practice rounds, and the lesser player, so to speak, probably shoots a better score. But then when it comes to Friday afternoon, the guys, the higher ranked players cruised through,
yeah.
6 or 7 under for 2 rounds, and the other guys, struggling to make the cut.
I think a lot of it, I always just say there's just people that, whether it's rugby league or whatever, like they want the ball. They want to score that try at the end of the game to win, or kick the goal to win. And then there's other people on that same team that probably crap their pants when they've got that opportunity, right? And
Yeah.
it's no different in golf, right? There are just some people that have so much self-belief that when they go out there, they feel like they're in cruise control. And then, I've got a young girl that I'm helping at the moment that has all the talent in the world, but just seems to, we're at that hurdle right now where when she gets into an event, she just probably makes it bigger than what it is.
Yeah,
You know,
100%.
how
Funny.
would you deal with that? Like if you had a student that was doing that sort of stuff, how would you
Yeah,
help them do that?
yeah. Funny enough, Pete chats about that a lot actually over the years. He talks a lot about stage fright. So he goes, everybody, all these good young players coming through, they all have lots of success at different levels, right? So that they probably win their club championship, and then they maybe win a county championship, a national championship. They win a few big amateur events or even lower level pro events. But then they get to a stage where they do start to suffer from a little bit of stage fright. And it's the players like what Pete always refers to, Matt Fitzpatrick. Obviously a good golfer, but if you watch him strike the ball, he's not as impressive as a Rory McIlroy or a Brooks Koepka, but he doesn't suffer from stage fright.
Yeah,
Like you said, he loves the pressure. He loves the Ryder Cups. He loves going out in those major he can't wait to get out there and play. So
yeah,
it's tough to pinpoint. What is it? It's very difficult. I guess it's just trying to get across to your player that making them realize that they are at that level, and they just need the belief to get out there and do it. And obviously, there's a lot of performance coaches nowadays, which I've seen work with players, and they're very good. Helping the guys with the routines, making them realize that it's not the be all and end all, working on body language, their connection with their caddy, how they go about things. So all those little things I think can maybe help them get to the level they want to be. And obviously then when they do it and they build the confidence, they can keep going with it.
Yeah. Can we talk a bit about the Asian Amateur Championship Academy?
Yeah, really good. It's in Japan this year. It's actually next week, so I'm flying out again on Saturday. I was just there last week, actually. So I did a 1 week academy just with 3 players. I guess three maybe of the better players that maybe have a chance of maybe winning this year. So we'll see how they go. 2 of them have actually just flown out to the Junior President's Cup. So they're in Canada this week. A young kid from Vietnam and another young lad from Thailand. So it's really good. The Asian Pacific Amateur Championship, I think the first one was set up in 2009. And there's been some brilliant winners. Matsuyama's won it, and I think a lot of the Aussie guys seem to win it.
They've been winning a lot.
The last 2 years, I think, right? So they'll definitely be going for 3 in a row this year, and it's great. Obviously, it's endorsed by the RNA and the Masters, so you do get an invite. Whoever wins it gets an invite to play in those major championships. So it's massive, right? It's massive for these young players coming through, and it feels like a major. But the academy side of it, I think, started around 4 to 5 years ago. I think the first one was in Singapore, which I missed. But then I was involved in the Dubai Academy, which they did 3 years ago. And then I did one in Thailand. And then last year I went to Royal Melbourne, your part of the world, which was really, really cool to go over there. Yeah. And then this year it's in Japan. So they've kind of tried to put a group of coaches together. So you obviously got Andrews in there, Ryan Lumsden, great guy, lives in Australia. Yeah, does all the biomechanics stuff. John Crampton, who's like the kind of technical director, I guess, of the academy. So he's worked with many Olympic teams over the years. You've got Nick Shan, who's the academy director, and then Scott Barr as well. Real good guy. Obviously, he's played on the Asian Tour for years. So he does a lot of the on-course performance stuff and the short game stuff with the participants. So we're just really trying to help these up-and-coming players perform at their highest potential, really. So we're trying to pass on our knowledge to them.
How many kids
this year we had 2 academies. So we had, I think there was about 16 in the second one and 10 in the first. There was about 26 players. But they're trying to grow it, so hopefully this year or next year we'll maybe do 2 or 3 academies. They're also going to start with the ladies as well. So I think they're really giving back. So a lot of the Asia Pacific countries potentially don't have access to. They do have coaches, but they potentially don't have access to your psychologists, your performance coaches, the biomechanics information. So I guess they're getting an opportunity to work with specialists for a week. So it's really good, and you can see it. You can see the improvement in them during the week because they're so good, right? They pick it up. Like Pete Cowen always said, when you start working with good players, they make you look good, right? Because they're already good. You don't actually have to do much. You just tell them do this, and they can do it, right? So it's simple.
Are you finding they're just like sponges? They just
it's incredible. Yeah. Like last week, the 3 guys in Japan, we did a lot of the greenside stuff, and I was just showing them, how to play from the different lies in the rough, on the top into the green, half in, full in. We did different bunker shots, different spins on the ball, and it was incredible how quickly they picked it up. Shot shaping with them, through loading the shoulders differently and where to apply the pressure, and they get it straight away. It's so good, so good.
Awesome. Could you give us a few names for the future to look out for?
There's a kid actually. I'll give you one. He's called Warut Boonrod. He's from Thailand, right? And he's 16, but he's known as the longest 16-year-old in the world. He hits the ball so far.
Really?
It's unbelievable. Yeah, what day was it last week? Last Thursday, I think it was. Yeah, we started on the 10th tee, and it was 375 yards to the middle of the green, and he's landed it on the middle of the green.
It's just a different world.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So yeah, keep an eye out for him in the future for sure.
All right. What was his name again?
Warut Boonrod from Thailand. Yeah.
What sort of traits are you looking for, or trying to find in players that would suggest they're going to be elite?
Well, the guys, the elite guy, they want to learn, right? You can see it in them. They want to learn. They do get frustrated if they don't perform, but they're always trying to find out why. They're not getting down. They might get down on themselves for a little bit, but they want to understand why did that happen. So they don't do it again. And that's what I see with these guys that are really at the top level. They are hard on themselves, but they're always trying to improve. It's constant improvement they're after. And you see it with the guys over the years, the guys that have won majors too, that have gone through swing changes, because they still want to get better, right?
It often amazes you when you see a guy that's won a major or whatnot, and then even Tiger did it, right?
Yeah.
Rebuilt the swing. It's crazy.
But I think that's why they've got there, though, right? That's why they've got to that level. So they just keep doing what they've always done, I think, and sometimes it doesn't work out, right?
Look, one of the main reasons I started this podcast was to help educate juniors, parents, and it's now, I guess, extended out to coaches as well. Just on how much work it actually takes to become a top level player. How many hours a week would you say the elite players that you're around, or even the guys in this, Asia Pacific Academy, how many hours a week are they putting into their golf?
Yeah, well, most of them nowadays, they've got a pretty regimented schedule. A lot of them do, online tuition now from home. Or if they are within a school program, they're maybe only there in the mornings for 2 or 3 hours, and then their afternoons, like from 1 o'clock through to 6 p.m., are focused around some type of practice. When I was doing a lot of coaching at Emirates, we did have a junior elite program. So we had the juniors down every morning, 6 mornings a week before school. So yeah, there's a lot now. I don't necessarily feel it's improved. I don't think you have to stand on the range and hit a lot of balls like you used to years ago. I think it's different now. I think the players understand their movement patterns. They understand that they can perfect that more through their drills and through their gym work. So they want to have longevity too, right? They do want to burn themselves out. So you can even see it on the pro tours when I travel around now. There's much less guys. Even when I first came to Dubai and the Desert Classic was on, and everybody was on the range for hours hitting balls. I don't see that anymore. I don't see it. The guys are into the recovery now. They're obviously in the gym, preparing their body before and after the game. They're doing their ice bath treatments, whatever it is. It's different. The guys are really looking after their bodies much, much more now. And I think because of the technology we have, we've got our TrackMans, we've got our force plates, we've got our BAM. So they know exactly what they have to work on. They're not trying to find it. It's very evident if they're slightly off what it is. And then they can just pinpoint those certain areas and try and improve them. But yeah, in terms of a weekly schedule for a player coming through, yeah, it's pretty much 7 days a week, really.
Yeah, it's like a full-time job, right?
It is, yeah. There's always something going on, and there's so many tournaments now, right, for these juniors.
Yeah.
There's tournaments they can travel for events with their national teams. There's obviously
how old are you?
Club events. 41. Almost 42. 42
yeah,
next month.
41 as well. It's changed a lot since we were kids, right?
Oh, massively, yeah, massively.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Big time.
was probably very similar to you, where I wanted to play in that as much as I could, but I was always fascinated as well by the teaching articles in Golf Digest, and like I think from a very young age, I was fascinated with Butch Harmon, and I think it's just one of those because he was in the magazines, and I think
So
it's one
good,
of those
yeah.
things that's when someone's kind of eventually going to be keen on coaching when they're more worried about the instructors than the players.
I was the same as you. I used to read all the. I couldn't wait for the magazines to come out, and then Sky Sports was good, right? Back in the day when Sky Sports was on, they used to have a lot more instructors on there. I used to feel they had like Peter Costas was on there. He used to work, I think, a little bit with Paul Casey. Butch was in talking about what he was doing with Tiger, and a lot of this it was very simple, right? It wasn't too complex, and I think that's another thing you see too much nowadays. Obviously on Instagram and YouTube, I think sometimes these young players think they have to do spectacular things to get great results when they don't. I think, sometimes the terminology and the way the instructors talk about certain movements and patterns makes it sound so complex when it's
Yeah,
not really. It's not really.
I agree with you. How important for you is I term them, external providers, 3D gym trainers, physios, mental coaches. How important is that as part of your coaching and development?
Yeah, no, it's very important, and I think it's important that that the coach understands how those things work. So when they're chatting to whether it's the psychologist or the strength and conditioning coach, you don't have to be an expert in it, right? But you have to have a pretty good understanding what information they're passing on to the player. So the player then, when they're speaking to you about it, you've got a fair idea of what's going on. But I think with the technology as well, I'm one of those. I do use technology. I use TrackMan quite a lot and the Swing Catalyst, but for me, it's just making sure that all that stuff's working properly. Do you know what I mean? Before you go
Yeah,
to deliver
yeah,
a lesson, you
yeah,
want to make sure, before every lesson, I'm there 30, 40, 50 minutes before, just making sure everything's perfect, everything's working correctly. Because when your player comes into the studio or on the range, you need to get that clear feedback straight away for them. You don't want to be trying to set something up, or so if ever I feel as though I would have to try and set something up, I wouldn't use it. I'm only using the technology if I'm prepared and everything's ready to go for the player coming. But I think as a coach, for all coaches coming through, to have a good understanding of what those external providers do,
yeah.
not just at the base level. I think it's good because you can help your player then.
Do you ever find though, like obviously those kids that would be coming into or when you're going and doing those camps, they would have a home coach, right?
Oh yeah,
And then,
100%.
is there ever any pushback from the home coach when, say, a Ryan Lumsden starts talking about 3D and what they need to be doing, and the coach is against it? Like, you're already starting to smirk. So, is there? You ever get much of that or not?
It's a strange one, isn't it? Right? Because I think, well, from the academies I've done, none of their home coaches have attended the
Yeah,
academies. No, I think
yeah,
in the past potentially there has been, but I missed those ones. But I think really it comes down to, I think maybe if there is a coach there, it's probably more of a communication thing, right? It's maybe for our coaches to maybe have a chat with the home coach first of all, just find out a little bit about the player, and just respect what they've done, because they've obviously taken this player to a certain level. So I think you do have to be a little bit careful when you've got a home coach there. I think you have to respect that coach, chat to them maybe before you say anything to their player. But at the same time, if there's something evident there which you feel as though you know that's going to help their golf game, you probably do have to step in and explain it to the player and to the coach, maybe in a little bit more detail.
yeah.
But yeah, it's tough sometimes, that isn't it, right? And even
Well,
if there's
yeah,
parents and stuff there, it's just the communication is massive. I feel, right. It's just trying to
yeah.
communicate with everybody.
get everyone on the same page.
Yeah, 100%.
What advice would you give to a young player that wants to become the best they can be? You would be dealing with this. You're probably one of the best people to ask this, right? You'd be dealing with it week in, week out. A 14-year-old turns up to you, scratch marker, Stephen, I want to be the best player in the world. What sort of advice would you funnel them into?
Yeah, it obviously depends what level they're at. If they're already, 16, 17, 18, it's trying to find out what scores are you guys shooting here? What do you shoot on the golf course? What tournaments have you played, and what type of scores can you shoot out there? And if they're saying to me, I can shoot 67, 65 now and again, you're thinking, right, okay. That's pretty good, right? But if a lot of their scores are around level par or one or two over, at that age, it's probably not very realistic, right? But then if you get the younger player in, 11, 12, 13, and you can maybe see in them that, they've got that hunger. You just know, right? When you chat to them, you can see if they've got it. After they hit one or two shots, you can see their kind of body movements, how they are physically. And you can kind of go, well, I think that they've got a chance there. You can see it in them, and then you can really help them. With the different drills and the scoring games and then obviously getting the parents on board. But it is a challenge, and most of the time it's going to be a negative, right? Those kids that you feel that can make it, maybe out of every 200 kids you see, there's maybe only one or two, right? For the other 198, it's a negative. But I think you have to probably maybe explain it to the parents first and be realistic, right? Because it's a difficult game, as you know, but it's a great game at the same time. For these kids, they can get to America. You don't have to play Division 1 golf. You can play Division 2 or Division 3. You can develop your golf during those 3 or 4 years. You make some brilliant friends. Golf's brilliant in other areas with business, or you can go into coaching or just the golf industry in general. So if they're really into their golf, there's so many different avenues you can go down. You don't have to be a tour player.
No, I agree. So obviously that's the advice for the junior. What about the parent of a kid who's showing a lot of potential? Have you got any sort of non-negotiables that you'd like the parents to follow?
Yeah, the parents can be difficult, right? You've seen it over the years. That's probably the biggest challenge sometimes, is that the parent maybe wants it more than the kid, right? The parent wants it more than the kid sometimes. It's the parents which just
generally from a good place, though. Like,
yeah.
the majority of them want the most for their kids. They just want their kids to be the best. And that's why I reckon I'm asking this question a lot now, is because a lot of parents tune into this. And if I can help one parent and junior not ruin their personal relationship, I think that's a win, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
Sorry,
100%.
keep going. What would your advice be?
I think for the parents, it's just understanding that the journey they're going to go down, it's not going to be that easy, right? There's going to be a lot of lows, and there will be a lot of highs in there too. So it's probably giving yourself a little bit of a time scale, I would say. From by the time they reach 15 or 16, you're going to know really if they can progress on to a tour player level. So whether they start at 4 or 5 years old, that gives them like a 10-year window. If they start at like 11 years old, that gives them a 5 or 6 year window to see how much they can progress within that time scale. So I would say to the parents, listen, they've got this time scale. Let's see how good they can get within that period, and then take it from there. And if it's like you say, it's good for the parents to want the best for them, right? That means that there's a support system there. That obviously the child's not doing it on their own, and then obviously give yourself that window. But within that window, try and do as much as you can to get success. Like you say, look at the physical stuff. look at the performance side, the technical side. Obviously, the competition's massive, right? You have to go and play competition. Get used to, playing golf with the scorecard in the back pocket. See how you perform. See how you rank yourself against the other juniors. And then take it from there. And maybe some international stuff over the summer months. Travel a little bit. See how you perform internationally. And then you've got a baseline to work off, I feel. And then once that junior gets to 16, 17, 18, that's when they're really thinking about, is it college golf or am I just going to turn pro?
Yeah.
And then you can take it from there.
Takes a lot of buy-in and commitment from parents as well, right? It's like it can't, even though it really has to be the junior golfer's desire and want. You kind of really need them to be not pushing it, but there's a lot of commitment involved because there's been a lot of juniors that have not reached their potential because the parents can't be asked to help, right?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing you don't want, right? That's worse, isn't it? Where you've maybe got a junior with lots of potential, but their parents aren't really backing them, and then
Yeah.
that kid's lost, really.
Yeah.
Particularly in Dubai, because it's a little bit expensive over here for golf. Your club memberships and your lessons, and so they do need that support from the parents, which sometimes can be difficult. Yeah.
Someone gave me a little tip off that you were into martial arts as a youngster. Is that right?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. More so when I moved to Dubai, I guess. Really,
Yeah.
I used to do a little bit of boxing and Muay Thai, and
You
then
did pretty, you did pretty
I
good,
like
is that right?
jiu-jitsu as well, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I used to train it. It was always nice, after teaching on the range, every day you would go off and do your jiu-jitsu class at night. It just kind of cleared your mind a little bit. It's sometimes nice being the student, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's sometimes nice being, and I think that helps your coaching as well. I think it helps your coaching to go and maybe learn a different sport or a martial art.
Well,
You kind of feel what's it like to be the student. So I think you can relate to your own students a lot better.
When Andrew was the one obviously that told me, but when he told me, I actually said to him I was going to ask you this question, right? I've had juniors and adults over the years that have come through that if I hear that they've done martial arts, I generally know they're going to be a very good student, and you give them their tasks and their drills to do, and
Oh, absolutely.
they accomplish it, right? So I want to get my kids into some form of martial arts. My wife's worried they're going to kill each other at home, but you would back that up? Obviously, that it does
Yeah,
something with the kids. They just seem to be able to complete the tasks that they're asked to do.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about martial art. Basically, there's no messing around, right? So
Yeah,
you go in there. You've obviously got respect for the mat. Where you do your training, so you'll probably bow to the mat. You've got respect then for your instructor. You've got respect then for your training partners that you train with. So it's just such a nice environment to learn, right? And obviously, as you go along, there's different elements to it. You've got your physical element. So the class is probably set up where you're doing your stretching first, then you do a little bit of physical, to warm the body up, a little bit of strength training. Then you move into the technical element. So you might learn a certain position or a certain move. And then at the end of the class, you'll go into more, I guess, the competition mode or play mode where you play. And then
yeah.
afterwards, you finish. Again, you respect, you bow to your instructor, the other students. So, in terms of golf, if you could base your golf practice around
It's
those
perfect.
methods as well, it's brilliant, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it's I think you just learn to control your emotions a little bit too, which is great for golf as well. So definitely, yeah, any type of martial art, highly recommended for sure.
All right, awesome. Mate, a couple more questions and we'll let you get back to it. Advice for coaches that want to end up like yourself one day or want to be a high-end coach.
I think the biggest advice really is just to try and learn as much as you can in terms of nowadays it's probably more the technology side. So looking into obviously your TrackMan data, your ball flight laws, they've changed a lot over the years. Looking into your ground reaction stuff through your force plates, the physical elements, the different muscle groups you use, and then obviously a little bit of your performance coaching, different triggers you can use to help your student, particularly as the player starts to get better. So yeah, that would be the biggest thing. It's tough to be an expert. You can't be an expert in everything, and no coach knows everything, right? And I feel that as long as the student comes to you and you're trying to improve them as much as you can to your level or to your knowledge, that's all you can really do, right? I don't think any coach in the world is trying to make anybody play golf worse, right? And I say that to, because sometimes it frustrates me a little bit sometimes when I speak to other coaches or other players. Oh, he's working on this technique or she's working on that technique. I don't quite like that, but I've never really thought that way. That coach is really only teaching that player a movement pattern or a method. That's what they know, right? So if a player goes to them, that's the type of information they're going to receive, right? And I think everything works, right? There's so many different ways to move the golf club, and everything will work if you stick to it, right? If you stick to it, every method will work if you stick to it. It's the players that, like Pete says, don't have the blinkers on, and they're looking around all the time, and it's magic move of the month, and they're saying, well, that player, he's doing this or that. Those are the guys that struggle, but it's the players that have backed themselves, have confidence in their own ability. And you see it. You see the best players in the world tend to have stuck to maybe one or two coaches, right? They've got someone who's probably helped them as a junior, then someone who's probably helped them once they've gone out on tour, and they've been super successful, and they've got a very clear picture in their mind of what they need to do. And if their game's off, it's generally because there's something physical. There's something wrong. They've got an injury. They can't move the way they want to. So they just have to recover, recuperate, and then they get straight back to it again.
Love it. Mate, just as we wrap up here, what do you reckon the best piece of advice you've been given in golf or life would be?
Best piece of advice in golf? Again, I love the continuous improvement. Continuous improvement. The road to success is always under construction. You never get there, right? So you're just constantly trying to improve in life, in your coaching, whatever you're trying to do. Just try and do it to the best of your ability, really. And I think if you stick to that, you should have some success.
I love it, mate. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom. Appreciate it.
Thanks, my man. Listen, we'll catch up soon. I'll maybe come over to your part of the world at some stage and we'll catch up.
Love to. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode just as much as I did. Truly appreciate having you as a listener to my show. If you could head to wherever you listen to your podcast and give this show a score out of 5 or a review, I'd truly appreciate it. And also share it with as many people as you can. This is truly starting to get right around the world, and I appreciate every single one of you.